Zone 3 training has been dubbed the sweet spot of training, as well as the more ominous gray zone. Some people will tell you Zone 3 is like a holy grail, while others will tell you it's like the Black Plague of the 1300s, but a million times worse. And I'm here to tell you the balanced, fact-informed truth like I always do. So let's start with this question. What is Zone 3 training? Zone 3 training fits right into the middle of your effort scale because you'll be doing a moderate intensity that hovers between 70% and 80% of your maximum heart rate. This is where your aerobic metabolism takes the lead, optimizing your cardiovascular system without tipping into the high-stress zone. In this sweet spot, your body learns to use oxygen more efficiently, enhancing your endurance. It's the perfect balance of sustained effort that pushes the boundaries of fitness, all while keeping the burnout at bay. Essentially, Zone 3 is where speed meets stamina so you can become fitter and more resilient. That brings me to the next point. How do you know if you're training in Zone 3? To ensure you're training in Zone 3, monitor your heart rate closely. Aim for a range between 70% and 80% of your maximum heart rate. This metric is your scientific sweet spot, indicating optimal aerobic effort without overexertion. So what's your maximum heart rate? Most authoritative websites and fitness instructors still use the basic formula of 220 minus your age. So if you're 40 years old, your maximum heart rate would be 180 beats per minute according to this formula. However, this formula doesn't have medical-grade accuracy, so it can be off by up to 10 beats per minute or so. If you want extreme precision, you can find plenty of free calculators online or ask your doctor to help you. On the sensory side, Zone 3 feels challenging yet sustainable. Conversations are possible, albeit limited to short sentences, not lengthy discussions. The workout should feel vigorous but not verge on exhaustion. You'll finish knowing you've worked hard, yet you're not at your limit. For a tailored Zone 3 workout, you can start with a 10-minute warm-up at 50 to 60% of your max heart rate. Next, perform 3 to 5 10-minute intervals at 75 to 80% of your maximum heart rate, separated by 5-minute recovery periods at 50 to 60% of your maximum heart rate. Finish with a 10-minute cooldown at your warm-up intensity. Now let's look at the advantages of Zone 3 training. Zone 3 training is at the limit between aerobic and anaerobic exercise, which gives it most of its benefits. I'll discuss in a minute how those benefits can become drawbacks, but first, let me focus on Zone 3 training advantages, or I'll end up doing another rant. First, Zone 3 training activates both Type 1 and Type 2 muscle fibers. Type 2 fast-twitch muscle fibers are essential for quick, explosive movements. It's like fine-tuning your body's acceleration power. On the other hand, Type 1 muscle fibers help you build more resistance in the long run. Besides, you get a more efficient recovery from a more intense workout. Compared to the higher demands of Zone 4, Zone 3 is less taxing, meaning you can recover faster and get back to training sooner. But compared to Zone 2, Zone 3 training is more intense, so it has more cardiovascular benefits that I'll analyze in a second. Basically, Zone 3 is the equivalent of a power nap, but for your muscles, heart, and lungs. For example, Zone 3 training enhances the maximum amount of oxygen your body can absorb and use during exercise. You can find this maximum oxygen consumption under the name of VO2 max, which basically defines your cardiovascular and respiratory fitness because it shows your body's ability to fuel those muscles with oxygen. Okay, so breathing hard and working out intensely has another major advantage, which is mitochondrial development. If you remember your high school biology, the mitochondria are your cellular powerhouses as they're deeply involved in energy production. Well, Zone 3 training workouts spur the growth of mitochondria, which means you're essentially upgrading your body's energy factories. Besides, this high energy demand has another advantage. If you watched my Zone 2 running video, you learned that the aerobic system relies on fat stores for energy, while the anaerobic system burns massive calories from carbs. Well, Zone 3 is one step above it, helping you efficiently burn both calories and fat. It's a bit like driving a car that's fuel efficient, but still has plenty of horsepower when you need it. Plus, this race-ready intensity has practical advantages. For the triathletes and runners out there, Zone 3 mirrors race intensity, making it a strategic rehearsal for the real deal. So, those are the advantages of Zone 3 training. But I previously mentioned that these advantages can quickly become drawbacks. Let me explain. Imagine you're aiming for Zone 2, where your body primarily uses fat for fuel. Accidentally scaling up to Zone 3, you shift the balance towards burning more carbohydrates. Sure, you're still burning fat, but not as efficiently as you could be. On the flip side, if you're gunning for Zone 4, you're looking to hit peak exertion to skyrocket your maximum oxygen consumption and push your limits. Hovering in Zone 3, you may find yourself in a fitness purgatory, working hard, but not hard enough to hit those high notes of peak performance. Staying in Zone 3 can also mean you're missing out on the full range of benefits from either zone. You won't gain the laser-focused fat burning of Zone 2 or the maximum capacity and power enhancements of Zone 4. It's as if you're trying to blend two recipes. You may end up with a flavorful dish, but it's neither one nor the other. So, should you use Zone 3 training or not? Deciding whether to train in Zone 3 boils down to your goals. If you want decent fat and weight loss, building a mix of endurance and strength, and lowering your recovery times or reducing lactate levels, then yes, Zone 3 can be your go-to. But if you're targeting specific adaptations like peak endurance or explosive power, you might want to venture out of the comfortable middle. For the long, slow-distance days aimed at fat burn or recovery, dial it back to Zone 2. And when you're craving that top-end, lung-busting effort, crank it up to Zone 4. Basically, Zone 3 is versatile, no doubt. It can be a fantastic component of a well-rounded training program, especially for those building towards longer races where sustained moderate effort is key. But for those days when you have a precise target, make sure Zone 3 doesn't become a comfortable trap that holds you back from hitting those high notes or sinking into that fat-burning groove. Use it wisely, mix it up, and train smart. Zone 3 has its place. Just ensure it's the right place for you. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you tried Zone 3 before or prefer training in other intensity zones? Remember to like this video, subscribe to the Fitnessdy channel, and let's keep the talk going in the comments below. And if you want to get in touch with the person telling you all this for personalized fitness advice, check the video description for details. See you in the next video.